Alrighty guys, so we're doing the rear wheel bearings on this 2002 Subaru Impreza. We loosened the 19mm lug nuts and the 32mm axle nut right here before we jacked it up, so that it'd be easier to get off. And then this guy might be kind of stuck on there. We went and got this puller tool right here. It's just the 5-pound one, not the 10-pound one. It worked really well for the other side. So that's what that whole kit looks like. And then we also got the bearing press kit and everything right there. This is the new bearing. So you can just connect this tool to your hub like this in order to pull it off after you get that axle nut off. And then I'm just using the lug nuts. So you get this tight on there, then you can start slamming away at this to pull it off. It's really not as hard as everybody makes it out to be. Alright, so this is a 5mm Allen wrench, which is just what I use to get these bolts out of the hub that hold this toner ring on. You're going to have to take that off. You have to get this inner race off if you're going to reuse the hub. So basically you can just toss that off. And then this guy is what you have to get off. What I did was I came at an angle with the grinder right here trying to cut through this collar. I grabbed the chisel and put it right here, hit it with the hammer, and then this was able to easily slide off like this. And it didn't really mess anything up. If you're really careful, you can definitely pull off reusing this. There's a 19mm nut right there, or you could probably get away with using 3/4 or whatever. It's a super long bolt that goes all the way through down there. As soon as we get that off, pull the bottom of this out in order to push the CV axle out to give us room in order to press the old bearing out, and then we can press the new one in and everything. Don't waste your time taking these two top ones off. It doesn't give you enough slack to pull this down and get this out. We got it loose. It sounded like it was going to break quite a few times before we got it to this point. There we go. Makes it a little bit easier to get to this bolt if you remove this backing plate and everything, which is just held on by these four, I think they're 14mm bolts. We did that on the other side. Someone before tried to do this and they didn't have the wrench on the nut very well, so it tore up the nut. So I ended up having to get a socket on it, which required me to move this backing plate. We're just not making it. Keep trying to come out like that. You can see that allows us to pull this out so that we can get the CV axle up and out of the way, and access to use that press tool that we got so that we don't have to use a traditional hydraulic press. There's 3 seals involved with this. There's this one right here. Basically the rear axle seal, the bearing oil seal, and then the wheel seal. There's another one right here. That's the outer, and then you have another one right behind it that's the inner. The part numbers are going to be 710529, 710226, 225005. Numbers 6, 7, and 8 are the seals, and then these are the Subaru part numbers if you want to order directly from them. So we rigged this tool up on here so that there's a space for the old bearing to be pressed out into, since we removed the snap ring from the inside 12 that I've been using to press the old one out. And then when you press the new one in, I think it's the number 11 that works. Okay. So yeah, there's the remainder of the old bearing. To put in the new one, you want to press on just the outer race. You don't want to press on this inner race and do damage to it. When you press the hub into the new bearing, then you will be reinforcing the back of the inner race, so the number 12, because you're just pressing the hub through the inner part, so the outer part is just going to stay still. 11 or something. This is the new bearing, and we're going to be pressing it in. It's a 32mm nut on the back there, and then the bolt that goes through for the tool is a 32 as well, which luckily is the same size as the axle nut on this. As you can see, it's kind of starting to go in there a little bit. You want to make sure it's going in straight and even and everything. It's not like fighting you too much. And as we get farther and farther in there, we might end up using just the old outer race of the old bearing to get it in the rest of the way. You can see what I'm talking about here. You'll kind of feel it hit the seat, like at the back. It'll just kind of stop, and it'll require a lot more force to even try to get it to move. So that's how you know that you're done. Don't go past that point, that's for sure. Yeah, so she's getting in there. Okay, so I got about this far with the newer bearing, and this is what I was talking about, using the old one to press on the outer race of the new one, because I know this is the perfect size. I do leave that plastic insert in there. It kind of keeps the two inner races together. But as you can see, like when you push this, the two inner races are just going to be like along for the ride. They're just going to tag along with this outer race that you're pushing on. And then when we push the hub in from this side, we're going to brace the inner race right here, because that's what we're pushing it into. That's what we're pushing against. And the outer race is already seated against the back there, so we just need to make sure that we don't accidentally press this inner race out of the outer race when we push the hub in. So we just finished pressing in the new bearing using the old outer race. Oh, look at that. That is, as you can see, seated all the way around right behind where that snap ring goes. So that's going to be our next. I just could use regular pliers. That's seated all the way in there, all the way around. Oh, so we have to put in this seal. So this one's the inner, and then this one's the outer. They go in the back. In the front, which we have to put in before we press this hub on, because otherwise you won't be able to take the hub back off without ruining the new bearing you just pressed in. Okay, so we got this seal pressed in, just perfectly flush, and it's shaped just like the inner, which goes on the other side. This side right here, where you can kind of see a little spring, it's like cupped, goes in towards the bearing on both sides. That's true. So this one would go just like this. Outer one, which has the kind of cupped seal that goes up against this. This is what it should look like after you get that inner seal set all the way. I know there's not really much light or anything, but you can see it's set all the way flush all the way around. This outer right here, it's actually really easy to tell which way this one's gonna go, because it seats, see how it's like cupped kind of? It seats up against your CV axle right here, so it basically goes like that. So this one, as you can tell, is gonna go in just like this, and it sits right behind the inner seal that we just pressed in. This is what it should look like. It'll be flush. And now we're ready to press this hub in, which don't forget to put your toner ring on the back. We basically have everything set up the way we did earlier to press the old one out and to press the new one in. We're going to be pressing the hub on now. I'm basically just using one of these small deals that is going to reinforce just the inner race there on the back. If you can, if you have somebody with you to keep this from spinning while you press it in, you can slowly see it start to go in. So we got the hub pressed all the way in, we got the seals on. Now all we have to do is re-loosen this really long bolt so that we can pull the bottom out, put this axle back through here, and then we're done. Okay, I know it's hard to see, it got dark pretty quick, but we're gonna go ahead and put the axle nut on, get it somewhat tight before we put the wheel on, and then really tighten it up to spec, and then indent the nut right where that divot is on the CV axle to keep it from spinning off. But we tightened up that 19mm huge long bolt on the bottom after we pulled this out and put the axle through here, and then we put on this rotor, and that's basically it. We're done.